So let's go to today's event, and that is coming in on time and coming in on budget. And needless to say, this is one of the more critical issues in every CRM initiative, and all of our clients address this issue, and all of our clients have, I don't want to say problems, but challenges in getting this right. So it's just part of the trade. So the way I wanted to break this down was into three pieces. One, I wanted to look at what do you do before the actual implementation begins to minimize, scope creep and over budget and overtime and missing the types of things that we all want to hit. Then a second piece I wanted to look at, as you begin the implementation, as you start it at the beginning, what do you need to do, again, to come in on time and on budget? And then during the actual implementation itself, what do we have to do to drive on time and on budget? Okay, so that's the way I thought this makes sense. And we'll just do one at a time. So this is kind of the first section, pre-implementation. And here I'd like to cover seven different areas that I think need to be well thought through and addressed if you're going to expect to come in on time and on budget. And I'll go through each of these individually. So the first one deals with this vendor fixed price contract. So one of the things before you begin your implementation, if you have to ask yourself, what am I buying from the vendor? Typically by this point, you would have agreed on pricing for the software and for the configuration of that software, and that might also include integration to other systems. And now, there's a couple of different areas you can get caught on. A lot of companies say, I'd like a fixed price contract because the CFO or the executive team are keen to know what the cost is and to keep costs at a certain level. And the benefit of that is you go out to your vendor and say, look, we have a software cost. Now what's it going to cost to implement? I need a fixed price. And what that creates is the software vendor then has to take huge risk in not totally understanding at that early stage how much is going to go well and not well on the configuration, the business process enhancement, on the integration to other systems, etc. So they're going to come back with a very high price purposely to cover the risk. If the risk is less than they thought, they make that much more profit. If the risk is worse than they thought, then they eat it. And so that's why you'll always see a very high price if you go for the fixed price contracts, but a lot of companies like that. An alternative is to say, no, I'm not going for a fixed price contract. I'd like to define project requirements first. So if we look at the typical scope of implementation, it's your project requirements, the design phase, the build phase, the test phase, and the deployment phase. So that's your classical implementation, right? So here you say, no, I'm not going to go for a whole fixed price. I'm going to look just at the definition of project requirements, the first step in that implementation program. And once I have a very clear understanding of the requirements from their perspective, what they're going to do and how much integration is going to take place and how much configuration is needed, etc., then I'm going to fix the price for the remaining stages, designing it, building it, testing it, and deploying it. So a lot of companies are saying, no, I'm going to break up that required design, build, test, deploy into phases, and I'm going to fix price each one of the phases. And that way I don't have to ask for an upfront fixed price that's going to be astronomically higher than it probably should be because the vendor has to cover risk. Rather, we're going to kind of build the stadium, if you will, one section at a time. And we had a recent customer that had this very issue.